Good morning, Bruchim Habayim, Morai Rabotai. We're continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are holding on Daf Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, the bottom of the Amud, starting the new Mishnah. Today's Amud is being learned as a schut for Refuah Shlema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, of Refuah Shlema, full recovery, Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Today's Amud, also together with the learnings of the community this week, has been graciously dedicated by the Dayan family, by Kohen family, by Shei family. It should be an ultimate zchut for all of their mishpachot, Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. So we're starting a new Mishnah, other lists of things that could create transgression resulting in Makkot. Nazir shaya shote yain. We all know a Nazirite, a person that has made a neder nazir lazir Hashem, cannot have any derivative of grapes, cannot certainly have wine. So if he is drinking wine the whole day, shote yain kol hayom, en hayav ela achat, provided that he got one warning in the beginning. If he goes on to drink wine the whole day, this is a Mishnah that we referred to back in the previous Mishnah, he only absorbs one set of malkut, not more. Even though that he had multiple accounts during that day of drinking wine, he will get only one set of lashes. But if people are standing there every time before he drinks, they say, "Oh, al tishteh, don't drink, you're a nazir," right? And he drinks. Say al tishteh again, he drinks. Every single time that he gets a warning and drinks after, he will get a separate set of malkut, because now it's a separate transgression. He will be liable for each one. Imagine he's an individual that can't come in contact with corpse, a kohen that can't be metameh himself with tumat met, and he's going in and out of Bet HaKevarot, right? He's doing a building project in Bet HaKevarot, going in, out, metameh lemetim. Eino hayav ela achat. Provided again that he got one warning in the beginning, he'll still only get one set of malkut for all of the transgressions, all the times that he went in the Bet HaKevarot, or touched the corpses and so on and so forth, only one. Amru lo al tetameh vehu metameh. If every time before he went to Bet HaKevarot they say you can't go in, you'll get lashes if you go in, and he goes, comes out, they warn him again, goes in, and so on. Every single time that he gets warning and he transgresses, it's a separate hayuv, a new obligation. Hayav al kol achat v'achat. It will be liable for each one. Fine. Haya megaleach kol hayom. Again, this is for same thing for Nazir. Nazir cannot be metameh lemetim. He can't be become tameh. So drinking wine is one way of him getting lashes. Going to Bet HaKevarot is another way of him getting lashes. And he also cannot shave his beard, okay, or his hair. He can't shave or get haircuts. So says the Mishnah, Haya megaleach kol hayom. He is getting multiple haircuts during the day, again, provided that he got one warning in the beginning. He will be liable only for one set of malkut. Amru lo al tegaleach v'hu megaleach. Told him, don't do it. And every time that they tell him he still does it, then he will be liable on each one of these actions. Hayav al kol ahad v'ahad. Haya lavush bekilayim. Now, an individual that's wearing kilayim, any individual, and he's wearing kilayim the whole day. They told him in the beginning this is a beged kilayim. He wore it anyways, and he's wearing the whole day. Eino hayav ela achat. He will be hayav only one. But amru lo al tilbash, al tilbash. If they tell him every time he takes it off, they tell him, don't wear this, it's shatniz, and he doesn't care, he wears it. Ve'u poshet ve'lovesh, he takes it off, he puts it back on. Hayav al kol ahad va'ahad, right? Tell him, you can't wear this. He's like, oh, really? He does it anyways. Like, I said, no, seriously, you can't do this. You can have a conversation of that nature. They're warning him every time, and he wears. Will be hayav al kol ahad va'achad. Will be liable for each one of those actions. So now the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, yesh choresh telem echad v'chayav alav mishum shemona lavin. You could have a scenario in which you do one harisha, you're plowing your land, and you go through one row of plow, and you become liable for 8 different transgressions. How in the world can you have that, right? How can you do one melacha and have 8 consequences, 8 obligations attached to it? So says the Gemara like this: Hachoresh beshor v'chamor, right? We have this in this week's parasha. We have it in this week's parasha. A lot of these isurim are in parashat Kitetzim. So if a person plows and binds to the plow a donkey and ox together, that's a law in the Torah. So that's one. And these animals both are also kadosh. Like Gemara is going to explain, they are bechor, kedushat bechor. Can't use them for your benefit. So there you have it already, right? Vekilayim bekerem. So that's already 3, and 4 is the donkey is kadosh, the ox is kadosh. There's 2 transgressions. You are doing b'shor v'chamor yachdav. That's another. That's 3. 4th is kilayim bekerem. What you are plowing happens to be the field is kilayim bekerem. So that's another one. You're working kilayim bekerem. The 5th one is uba shvi'it. You're doing this in shvi'it, which is asur to do, right? Can't work the land, can't plow on shvi'it. And it happens to be Yom Tov as well. Hashem, he picked the wrong day, mamash, of the wrong year with the wrong thing in the wrong way. It's like the Yom Tov, and he happens to be a Kohen and a Nazir on top of it. So, and says the Mishnah, he's a Kohen and Nazir bebet tumah. It's, also you have a kever, it's a beta kevarot, you have a thing. So you count all of them, it'll become 8 different transgressions all at once. So it says the Gemara, Chananya ben Achinai Omer, Afa lo besh kilayim. I have a 9th one. He's also wearing kilayim, right? Amru lo Chachamim said, no, higzamta, like you're going too much already now. That has nothing to do with what he's doing. He happens to be wearing kilayim. He could also be chewing on pig. It's not. It's a separate issue. It's not that he's getting lashes of the kilayim he's wearing because he is plowing. All the other things that we are doing over here is because of the plow he is doing, right? In the place and time and the way he is doing it. But it's the action of plowing. So, Amar lahem, afa nazir lo Hashem. It says nazir also happens to be not min Hashem because it happens to be beta kevarot. It's not because of the plowing. It happens to be that separate from plowing happens to be in beta kevarot. So that becomes debatable whether or not the fact that where he's plowing is a beta kevarot is an intrinsic isur or is a separate isur. Fine. So that's the Mishnah. Amar Rabibi, Amar Rabbi Yossi. Rabibi said name of Rabbi Yossi. Poshet velovesh, lovesh mamash. Do we have to have a case that he actually takes off the garment and puts it back on from scratch? Or maybe, afilu machnisu motzi bedyad. It's sufficient that he takes out half of the beged, he takes the sleeves off, and then he puts them back on, right? So says the Gemara, Machvi Rav Acha Breder Rav Ika Iyuli Valfuki. He showed him how exactly it is to take out and to put it back on, right? Now, you know, the Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi or Rivan over here, they explain this a little bit more exactly, specifics of how it is. But that's basically, you know, if you take out a little bit and enough to be considered that's off and you put it back on, it's also considered taking off and on. The kilayim, for each one of that, you will be hayav. If you get separate warnings, you will be hayav a separate set of malkut. Fine.
The last mission, does he get 8 sets of lashes for the 8 or 1? I don't think there's a difference.
Yeah, he says, basically he says chayav for all of them, right? Which means chayav alav mishum shemona means that he will be liable for 8 different things. It's obviously, given that he got proper warning, he would absorb all of those. So says the Gemara. Now we're going to go back to that in just a moment. So says the Gemara. Rav Ashi Omer, afilu lo sha'ela kedei lifshot velilbosh chayav. Rav Ashi says, and that's the halacha, that not only are you taking off and on, this that we're saying in the Mishnah is the time lapse through which it would take him to take off and put back on the bigger kilayim. Right? Rabbi Kiva speaks about this. How is this lav sheyesh bo maaseh? Right? How do you give him every time that you tell him you're wearing shatnez, take it off? Right? Imagine every minute you're telling him, and that will become a separate hiyuv for him. How does that work exactly? I mean, the Sefer Minhag Chinuch talks about this, and based on Rav Kiva Eger, that you know his body holding up the garment perhaps is considered an action by itself as well. So says Rav Ashi, not only taking off and putting back on the kilayim by itself is an issue, but the time lapse of taking off and putting back on is an issue by itself as well. So therefore, you would be mechayev him different chiyuvim every time. So it says the Gemara, Yesh choresh telem. This that we spoke about 8 different obligations by plowing one row in your field. Amar Rabbi Yanai bechabura nimnu vegamru. They made a decision in the Beit Midrash, ha-chofe bekilayim loke, that when you cover a hole that has kilayim in it, you will get lashes. In other words, there's a hole, there's seeds of kilayim inside already, and all you do is you cover it with some dirt. You cover it, now the seeds are covered together, right? Is that considered zri'ah? Is that considered planting kila'e kerem or kilayim together or not? So it says, Rabbi Yanai, bechabura nimru vegamru, chofe bekilayim loke, that if you do it, you're liable. Amar lahen, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, lav mishnatenu izu, right? It's not our Mishnah. Is this any different? Says the Gemara, Yesh choresh telem echad v'chayav alav mishum shemona lavin, right? Ha-choresh b'shor u'b'hamor ve'en muktashin. You have the shor v'chamor yachdav, that's 1, muktashin, that's 2 additional 1, it's 3, v'kilayim b'kerem, right? So you're doing charisha, right? And that by itself is considered kilayim bekerem. So it says the Gemara, Hai horesh de mehayev mishum kilayim hechi mashkachada. How do you have plowing that makes you hayav for kilayim? I thought kilayim is when you plant something. When you plant mixture of of seeds that you're not allowed to plant together, that's when you are chayav for kilayim. By plowing, you become chayav for kilayim. So says the Gemara, hechi mashkachadla. How do you have an obligation for kilayim by the means of just plow? Lav de michsi be'adeh de azil. Isn't it a case that you are plowing? How does a plow work? You take the compounded ground that's hard. You take from the bottom and you put on the top. That's how plowing is, right? You have a plow. You get the deeper elements, and they come out and cover the sides, depending on how you plow. That's basically what it is, right? So what happens is if you have seeds already and you plow on top of it, they all get covered, right? So aren't we talking about a case that the seeds are in holes or they are exposed, and when you do plowing that they now become covered? So it says Rabbi Yochanan, it's our Mishnah. This chidush of covering the seeds of kilayim, and now you're liable for the isur, is really our Mishnah over here, isn't it? So says the Gemara, lav de michsi be'adeh de azi. Isn't it because when he plows, he's covering the uncovered seeds as he goes? Amaleh, ilav de delai lecha chaspa mi mashkachat margenita. If I wouldn't uncover this for you, would you find this margelita, this diamond, this precious stone, right? Tuta, and beneath it. Amalei, he answered to him, Resh Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, ilav de kilescha gavra rabba hava amina matnitin mani Rabbi Akiva. If it wasn't because he gave you a beautiful word of chizuk, he said, "Oh, you found this." I would say, "No, Mishnah. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi, is not like this halacha." I would say our Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva holds the Amar Hamekayem Kilayim Loke. When you go through a land and you work it and you keep the kilayim that you have there, that by itself is a liability. So it's not that you have to plant kilayim to become hayav and liable for kilayim, but even if you find kilayim in your garden already existing and you don't uproot it, you don't take it out, you're also liable for keeping it. That's the shita of Rabbi Akiva. So Resh Lakish says, okay, don't get too excited. Fine, you found a raya that you're plowing and you become hayav for kilayim, right? If others would not praise your diuk in the Mishnah, I would have said our Mishnah has nothing to do with this. Our Mishnah holds like Rabbi Akiva that seeing kilayim and not taking it out will be also a chiyuv of malkut by itself, and therefore you have no raya for the question of what happens if I don't have kilayim yet, and I have seeds of kilayim there. No kilayim, no kilayim has grown yet, right? I have seeds of kilayim and I cover it. Whether or not that's liability of kilayim, isur of kilayim or not, maybe you wouldn't know it from our Mishnah, because our Mishnah would be Rabbi Akiva, right? My Rabbi Akiva. Now we have to talk about this a little more. We're just going on a little bit now. We're going to come back to some of these things tomorrow to explain them a little bit deeper, which is a need. But we want to just get to the bottom of this. What's the Rabbi Akiva's shita? The Tanya we learned in Braita, Haminakesh va'mechape bekilayim loke. If you are menakesh, like you take the weeds out, or you're mechape, you are covering by kilayim, you're loki. Rabbi Akiva says, afa mekayem. Not only